Because pillow.
Because we're good at pushing buttons.
I'm very good at pushing buttons.
I'm very good at stroking things.
I'm a fan. Anyway.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Females of the Apocalypse.
Hello, we hope you're having a wonderful evening, as we are.
Yes. Talking about stroking things and pushing buttons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's our job,
Yeah,
right?
innuendo. Absolutely. That is our job.
Innuendo, outuendo, innuendo.
You say outuendo, and I immediately think about babies and diapers.
Let's not go there.
No.
Wait, let's not.
Let's not go there.
Let's dip into the jar for a topic.
Yes.
We've had a day, so it's
Yes.
been very interesting around the shop. I mean,
We've had a couple of days.
we've had a couple of days.
Yes.
We all got the black memo too. So.
Yes.
Yes.
So today is all about a jar topic.
Yes.
Who would like to dip into the jar? There's no dip in the jar. Well, no parts of the dip.
I will
No parts of
rustle
it.
around in here for a minute.
If you don't like the
And then
topic, you
pull it
can throw
out.
it back.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I can speak.
So-
Okay.
Mhm.
Our topic would be what inspires you creatively?
Oh.
Which is actually timely because we were talking just before we fired up the video about how we're trying to force ourselves to be creative even when we don't feel like it because we're professionals, gosh darn it.
Ugh.
And part of being a professional is showing up to work even when you don't want to.
Right.
And yeah,
And so you can't wait for inspiration to hit.
right.
But which isn't the same as you can't find things that will inspire you creatively.
Inspiration doesn't hit. I mean, when you're a young creative, okay, we'll do the dark ages of time when you to be creative, you had to trudge uphill both ways through the snow.
That'll make you think creatively in certain ways.
Well, yeah, okay. When we were all young, right?
Yes.
The ideas were over.
At one
At some
point or
point.
another.
The ideas
Allegedly.
were crazy fast, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, you both had that experience.
Yeah, there's been times I've just been swamped with so many good ideas, and then on days when I need an idea, they're gone.
God, that's annoying.
Yes.
Same?
Yeah, there were days when I literally couldn't write fast enough to get all the ideas down. Even if I was just writing down the ideas, the just constant bombardment of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened in different places and it felt kind of randomly, but 20-ish years later.
It's okay, dear. We'll let you have that one.
I know. I've recognized what I'm doing and where my brain is when the ideas come,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're young, everything is so new.
yeah.
It's like being a toddler, and the idea, it's like you're in one of those like the jelly bean store where
Oh my
and
god!
everything you look at is like that's an idea. Let's run off that way. Let's do this.
They make popcorn flavor.
The first time I was in a Jelly Belly store, I was an adult, and I was like that. I mean,
Yeah. So I mean, there's a point at which when you're very free, and I think also when you are very unencumbered from the responsibility to create.
Right.
When you aren't a published author, when you aren't a costume designer who has to be able to show you hate, when you're not an artist doing a cover that you're like trying to figure out what in the world does this client want,
Right.
right?
Well, I'm also thinking that we all have a little bit, maybe a little bit, more than a little bit, of the oppositional. So if we're being told we have to do this, we're like, don't wanna.
I'm
Yeah.
never that way. Ever. How dare you? So,
I will admit recently that there was something that completely innocuous where my brain went, she thinks she's our boss. And I'm like, damn it.
No, I'm not.
And no, she doesn't. But the first thing my brain thought was, she thinks she's our boss.
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have to admit though that I had the opposite thing of, oh good, someone to tell me what to do, so I don't have to think about it.
Totally feel that way.
And I'll be honest, there's times when it's like, oh God, please just tell me what to do. Do not make me make this decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of times at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want to eat?
Yeah.
I had a friend
Food?
who would look at me and say, he would say, what do you want to eat? And I would say, I do not want to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I'll make the decision. You just don't argue. I'm not going to argue.
Mhm.
Just not anything that'll kill me. Okay, good. Right. It'd be lovely if creative stuff could be that way.
Oh my
yeah,
god.
yeah, it would. And the other thing I know I've had to learn, because there are days when there's just nothing knocking, when I am like, I need inspiration to knock, and it doesn't work that way. You really have to track it down, hit it over the head, and drag it back with you.
Now there's an image that I find inspiring that makes me want to create something.
But it's yeah. So the hunting. Oh my god. I was part of a workshop where we had to visualize our muse as make them into a person as you can talk to them, and mine was a Scottish fairy in a kilt. I'm like, that works for me. I'm totally willing to hit him over the head and drag him home.
I kind of like that.
Right? Like, if I could stand there and just talk to them and find out, okay, what's going on? Why are you not showing up? And so I was like, you're being lazy.
Yeah. And this is the other thing, which is the three of us sitting here and having this conversation, and I say something that sparks an idea. And that's another way to find something that will inspire you creatively, is to find other people to talk to and spark ideas off of. So I'm trying to decide how much of this story to tell.
Just let it all out.
Okay, so when I went to my very first Liberty Con, I had met Sanford while I was there, and I thought when we separated at the end of the con, he had to go home. I had booked an extra day down there because I was going to prospect around and look for the possibility of living down there. Well, I had already decided at the end of my first Liberty Con there was no way in heck I was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hot, sticky, humid, no. So I had an extra day with nothing to do. And the first thing I did after he left was walked into the con suite where they were doing breakdown and cleanup, and was like, put me to work. Well, that only lasted for so long. And then I had nothing to do, so I ran into my friend Lynn Wickland, who's unfortunately passed now. And I was like, I brain dumped at her, and I'm like, this is what I'm dealing with. And she's like, oh honey, you're so sweet, I love you so much. And because she was my mother's age, and she's like, you're gonna go into your room and sit down with your computer, and here's your prompt, and you're gonna write a story. And she said zombie maggots, which is where the infamous horror duology of short stories wound up.
Lynn said that to
I
you?
had no idea that was
Lynn
a
said that to
prompt.
you?
Lynn, Kitty Dragon Lynn.
Wow.
And it was
She was
brilliant.
so sweet.
Unknown depths.
and yes, she
Wow.
was so sweet, and she was all about the soft, fluffy things, and she gave me zombie maggots. But it was what I needed, because immediately my brain was like, ooh, sparks, yes, chase the shiny things. And I went up into my room and I sat down and I pounded out the entire story over the course of a day, because I really needed that distraction from being angsty, but also because somebody else was like, here's a prompt, run with it. And it was what I needed at the time.
External inspiration.
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can find external inspiration from somebody else. You can ask for the inspiration.
Like, you seem to really respond to external inspiration really well.
Really well.
Yeah.
Well, so when I was first writing erotica, I think I've told this story a couple times now. I was part of a group, and we had our weekend challenge. And Friday morning, you were given a title, and
You were given a title.
you were given a title,
Aha.
and a subject and a genre-ish kind of thing. But you had room to play with it. So I was given, and my favorite one was the Werebear Hunter. And I had Maximilian Maximus was his name, who was a yes.
Sorry, Max.
Who was a billionaire. And then I could go with whatever I wanted to with that, and that became the Werebear Hunter, which was a gay romance of a werebear who was looking for the werebear that turned him into a werebear to avenge his lover, only to come to find out that his lover was now the new werebear.
I really love the inside of your brain.
Right? It's such an amazing place to be.
I really love your brain.
But it was like, I got that, and you had to the end of the weekend to write the story, make the cover, get all your keywords and your categories together, and have it publishing by the end of the day Sunday.
So
Mhm.
external structure.
External structure, and it was a weekly thing, and if you didn't finish last week's, you couldn't participate this week's.
Oh.
And you were responsible for giving somebody else a title and whatever. And because it wasn't your stuff, it was, you could go to a random like idea generator and just give them titles.
Mhm.
That could be
Well, it's-
really dangerous.
Oh my god!
It's kind of like what I've done with the more odds than ends
Mhm.
prompt, which actually came out of a prompt years ago. Oh gosh, it's been 12, 13 years ago.
Do you
There
want
was
to
a-
explain more odds than ends?
Yes, well, the original thing was a challenge where you every week you submitted a prompt, and the prompts were dumped into a spreadsheet and randomly assigned to another person. And More Odds and Ends does the same thing. There's a blog. Every Wednesday morning we publish a post, and it has two tables, two spreadsheet generations on it. And one is the prompt challenges. So if you put in a prompt, it's your name and a challenge, and then someone is randomly assigned, because the final column, we just random generate and shuffle the names.
Okay.
And I try to make sure that the same people, that somebody that put in a prompt doesn't get back their own prompt, although that does work, oddly enough.
Mhm.
And the other table that's inserted into the blog are the spare prompts.
Okay.
And we have one silent contributor that doesn't want to participate. He thinks he's not creative. I've seen some of the spare prompts he sends in. He is incredibly creative. That's all he wants to do is the short little prompts.
Well, that's his thing.
Yeah, that's his thing.
That's where his
and it's
creativity
great
is.
fun because if you forget to send in a prompt, or you think you aren't going to be able to participate on a given week because you're busy, then you can just use one of the spare prompts. And my big thing with this was there's no critique, there's no judgment. If you can't if you submitted a prompt and were part of the prompt challenge, but you can't submit a creative thing, which is mostly writing, but it was originally supposed to be art, anything, then there's no judgment. It's just try again. I mean, because my idea was that it would prompt creativity by giving this little challenge, and the external accountability of having, I've got to get this done and submitted in time so that it's by Tuesday evening, so you have a week. But yeah, because it's kind of like what you were doing. It's where you get that external prompt. I'm curious about the genre-ish.
So, if a lot of people who are in this group wrote in multiple different like super niche subgenres, and so like Where Romance was
A Where Romance
right.
was itself
it's a niche genre, right?
Wow, a sub
so like there's romance, shifter romance, and then you got werewolves, dragons, bears, and werebears are different than were lions, which are different from
Where Kettlefish.
Yes.
Sorry, that one just tickled me so much.
But so like the shifters and then other stuff. So it was genre-ish in that you could make it fit what your current niche was. Or you could use it to explore a niche that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
So it was so like mine was, and if you, because I know Maximilian Maximus and Werebear. Now, I didn't have to make it a gay romance. I didn't have to make it all this other stuff. That was just how it worked.
Yeah.
Right. And it could have been a billionaire man's adventure romance where he's chasing werebears and the werebear isn't the
focus.
The focus.
Yeah.
Right. So there was all sorts. There are different ways I could have gone with it. I was practicing werebear romances, and for whatever reason, that's what came out. And it was a fun little story. And
now, I don't know if you ever considered doing this, but what I did with the prompts over 1 year, in fact, I think it was 2020, is I wrote The Case of the Perambulating Hat Rack. And every weekly prompt, I would twist, fold, mangle, and mutilate to fit what I was doing. So it was an episodic novel, is what it turned into.
So I actually did the Evil Sorceress in Training. Was a 5-story series that was collected. that I actually was basically all prompts. It was
Yeah.
a different story a week, and I got 5 weeks together, and it's a full story. The evil sorceress in training is she's her stepfather is has groomed her to be the perfect virgin sacrifice,
Well, thanks.
and she's decided she's not going to do that.
Good.
Right.
So she seduces the hero and seduces the hero's girlfriend, and
She's gonna make sure she's not a virgin in
She's
any
going to hit
form.
all the check boxes.
Right.
and she's so we get to the end, and she ends up shoving her stepfather in. So
Well, yeah. See, that works for me.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so yeah.
For
So
you, yeah.
me, yeah, I live in a different space than authors.
I know.
yes,
Yeah. Because for me, I obviously I'm sitting here. What am I doing? I'm stroking fabric because I'm a texture junkie. Texture inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
Texture really inspires me creatively, and in a variety of other ways too. But something I learned early on is that if I, because I am fabric and texture and 3D based, if I cannot see my fabric, I am not inspired. And if my fabric isn't happy, which means it's not folded up, it's just shoved onto the shelves weirdly and stuff, and the colors are all mismatched, I'm not inspired either. If my trim is all put away, I don't think about it. So I don't go, oh, that'd be really cool if I put it on blah. So when you come into the blanket fort, which is a much smaller selection than there used to be in my life, I used to have 6 shelves. I had six sets of shelves of 2, like I have right now, that were full of fabric.
Yeah.
And they were all color blocked. I didn't have them sorted by what they were, but I could see all of it in front of me.
Yeah.
And then on my wall that I sewed, I faced all my trim. Because I think it's incredibly important if you're somebody who deals with any kind of craft or creativity, that if you put it away, you forget. I mean, and it's for me, if I don't have those things out and I'm not surrounded by beautiful things, I'm not as inspired. I used to keep all of my fabric in boxes when I was still working out of my home, and I would pull out my box and I would just kind of feel through and go, oh, that feels good, and I'd throw it over my shoulder onto my cutting table. And I would do that. I would just like dig through and go, oh, that's pretty trim. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is nice linen. And then I'd turn around and all the stuff would be on the table.
Yeah.
And I'd go, whoa. And then bing, this whole thing would appear in my head and then like be clawing at my eyes trying to get out until I got to sleeves, because I hate sleeves. And that would inspire me. But when I started doing it professionally, what I ended up having to do was, when I started doing ballet is so specific in what they're trying to communicate through dance and movement and music and sound, that I would very often ask to go to early rehearsals to see the choreography and to see what mood and everything was involved with that, because the movement would inspire me as to what it should look like.
Yeah.
Because
which makes
collaborative,
sense,
right? I mean, it's like, oh, they're doing all staccato. I say this all the time. They're doing staccato, hard, sharp things, or they're doing flowy and beautiful. So, ooh, silk chiffon, So all of that figures into it. But I'm so visual. I'm so visual. And when I got my tires replaced in my car, I was looking at these really cool wheels. I was like, God, that'd be a stunning corset, just because it was like this cool light-room thing. So everything around me inspires me. So I try to set up my space, so my space is inspiring as well. It's like with writers, you've got to have your space. You've got to have your spot.
Yeah.
Where your muse goes, oh, I'm home now, and can pop out,
Yeah.
So creating that space that allows for the creativity to gel or things to come together really matters.
I used to, when I was in Denver, we moved my desk into its own little space instead of me sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I don't even know how you were doing that, because I've been to that apartment.
And you sat on that couch.
I was like so impressed. I mean, I was like, damn, girl, you were doing all that here? I was just like, what is this woman going to do when she gets her own desk and her own space? It's like,
So I'd had a desk, and I was facing a white wall.
yeah, not good.
Yeah.
So it was when I turned the sides of the desk into bookcases. I filled them with books, and then put some of Cedar's artwork actually above my above my monitor. It's like, oh, okay, I can show up now, because what I'd been doing was I was sitting in like directly next to the window, and I could see the bookshelves that we had, and the stacks and the boxes of books everywhere, and
It's inspiring,
artwork that had never actually made it onto the walls, but was like out where I could see it.
Yeah.
and that I could work with that.
Mhm.
And so moving into a space where I'm like, okay, I have my own space and it's clean white walls and there's nothing to look at. It was like I'm getting rid of all the distractions. No, I'm getting rid of all the visual things my brain uses to
Yeah.
process things.
Part of that is learning how your
Mhm.
creativity is inspired.
Yeah,
You know.
Yes.
and that's a process,
It
and
is.
And it
changes.
evolves. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because when we moved this last time, I was immediately more relaxed and happy,
Mhm.
and I set up the office kind of willy-nilly because we were still working on the house and doing things. So I put the desk facing a wall with the window off to my side, which was good because I liked the window there. But then I realized that I needed to have a treadmill in my office so I could walk because I was getting extremely out of shape because I'm doing 9 hours of day job most days and then writing and art and stuff. So the other thing that I learned after I moved the desk, and that was better, and I had the treadmill on so I could walk. But the other thing I learned is that writing in my office isn't working for me. I have to get up and get away from the desk in order to be comfortable enough to write because I'm just in the chair too much.
Yeah.
So you have
Well,
to
it's
move.
associated with a different mindset.
Well,
Yeah.
that too. I'm still able to do art there. I'm doing graphic design there because I have to. That computer's slave to the desk. But I'm finding that coming here to the blanket fort works best for me for writing right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a different place, change mindset.
And you walk to get here, which getting the blood
Sometimes.
flowing. Sometimes.
Sometimes she does.
Sometimes, but getting the blood flowing to your brain and to other parts.
Yes.
Will inspire that too.
And I used to, when I was in Ohio, I would take long hikes because the area I was in had a bunch of metro parks. So I had miles and miles and miles of hiking trails available to me. And they were usually between work and home, even when I was at different jobs, because there's like 14 parks in the greater Dayton area. So I was able to stop and hike on the way home, and then I would come home and deal with family, and I'd be able to write, because you're right, that walking, that quiet time with nobody talking to me, and just my brain chugging along, trying to come up with things.
Yeah. I also get inspired just by certain people. You know, I look at them and go, oh my God, I so desperately want to dress you. And a bartender
sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not.
Okay, there was this awesome Irish god of a bartender who was like 6'2" and had curly red hair and dreadlocks down to the middle of his back. And he was like the perfect V shape. And and he was just beautiful and a fabulous bartender because I would walk in the door, and as I was sitting down, he'd be making my favorite cocktail. I didn't even have to ask. I always went there after shows. And one time I just looked at him and was like, oh my God, I so desperately want to dress you. He kind of looked at me and he was like, that is not normally what women sitting in the bar say to me. And I went, okay, that too, but you're way too young for me. But he was just, his physicality inspired me to, I just desperately, because he was so masculine, I really wanted to put him in like cavalier stuff with tons of lace.
Oh,
or because the contrast on him would have been so fascinating. You know, it was a very Three Musketeers kind of feel. And then I wanted to put him in pirate and leather because the hair, you know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And it just, I was inspired by how he moved and how he, the kind of clothing I wanted to put on him. And I'm sure you guys are inspired when you meet somebody. It's like, yeah, you don't put your friends in your stories at all. So
I've never done that. I don't know what any of you are thinking about.
I find it highly interesting to read them and try to pick out, okay, I know who that is.
I know who that one is. Right? That woman right there. I don't say anything because I don't tell authors that I read their stuff because I know far too many of them, right? So I just don't talk about their books with them, but I do read them.
Okay, as long as you enjoy it.
No, it's okay, and I
It's
know a
funny.
lot of books anyway.
It's
so.
funny because you're describing this young man and the hair and the clothes, and you got to the pirate thing, and I suddenly had a mental image of, ooh, that would make a great cover model for, and because my brain does both the text and the art style. And that's, so for the art desk, which right now is in my bedroom, which is a really bad place for it, but I have no place else to put it. All of my stuff is away in drawers.
So when Johan moves out, you're going to take over his room and turn it into your art room, right?
Yeah, it'll be guest room and art room. But even right now, I have I bought boards for shelves, the pre-painted boards, because I knew I would never get around to actually doing all the stuff to prep them. I'm going to have boards and brackets, and my project soon-ish, probably this month, is to put some shelves up so I can pull my art stuff out and put it up there, and then I'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
And if I can see my inks and my pens,
Makes all the difference.
and have my paper easy to grab and not clear across the room on a different shelf, then I will be able to just stand there, because it's a standing desk. I don't have a chair.
Yeah.
And
I
I'll
think it's
be able to
incredibly
work.
important. I mean, that's really important. It's like you have this thing, which is very interesting, your workspace that you're, which is really good you finally told us, because we didn't know.
Oh.
Right? No, it's like things you learn when you're sharing a house with somebody. You have to figure stuff out. We had a habit of, Deesh was like, he was putting stuff on your chair, or I couldn't remember which it was.
He'd put stuff on my chair.
Yeah.
And
as a courtesy,
right?
So, not knowing that was like, you have to deal with it had the wrong connotation for you,
right? So putting stuff on my chair means you must deal with this before you're allowed to sit down.
Yeah,
and it's like, but I want to sit down, and this is my desk where I work, and I can't work until I deal with this. And why is this here?
Yeah, so it completely derail her, which we didn't know, and she finally told us, because we're like, why should we? Irritated. She went, because this, and we're like, oh, okay, so yeah, now we don't do that, right? So
now there's a spot to put things.
Yeah, it's like, where do you want it to be put? Right here. Okay, great. But it's really important to declare those boundaries,
right?
You know, and let the people around you know that I mean, if you got hit by inspiration and you went dashing to your chair to park and write, there's a thing on your chair,
right? Like, I'd like literally stop it. Like, why is this?
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the stupid idiot that got in the way of the writing of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The merchant who came to the door and nagged at it. I mean, when he was writing that epic poem, the reason it's unfinished is because he woke up out of a dead sleep with the entire poem in his head and was frantically writing it down. And then somebody came to the door and wanted his attention and it was niggly, stupid shit.
Yeah.
My question would be, why the hell did he open the door? You know, but
training and habit. We all do those things,
right? But learning to let people know in some way that doesn't work when you're like being creative about something.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm writing now. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's a big problem for me right now, because and has been for years, because of the kids. And there's times that because I was running a business from home for a long time. And they were pretty well trained that if the office door was closed, the only reason you knocked at the door is if something was on fire or somebody was bleeding.
Arterial spurt only.
So if the door was open, they could come in and talk to me. I probably wasn't on the phone. But that was also not a business where I needed prolonged periods of concentration the way I do when I'm writing. If I have a story come into my head and I'm trying to get it all out and onto the screen, then I really need time where I'm not being talked to. And I have always had, since then, I've always had shared spaces for offices. And that is, oddly enough, I would be able to go to like a coffee shop, or heck, I wrote a fair amount of the ending of Dragon Noir sitting in the convention hall, the main area, with people all over the place. I sat there with my laptop and wrote a big chunk of that book, because none of them were my responsibility.
and that's it becomes background noise. I know I used to write when because I would start things at home and then I would work on them, you know, in my car at lunch. In my car.
Insane process you had. It's insane, but it worked.
It
was
worked
great.
It was not efficient, but it worked. It got a lot of words out, and it made me able to train my brain to, okay, I'm doing this. This is when you need to show up. The words are now going to come. And what would kill me is if I went up to the break room, people thought they could talk to me.
Right.
And so I'd be sitting there trying to work, and people would, so I'd go sit in the coffee shop, which is actually closer than the break room, and people would leave me alone. So every now and then someone would come down, sit next to me, and try and talk to me. I'd look at them and I'd go, are you bleeding? No. Do you want to be? I should go. Yes, you should. And
it interrupts flow state.
It does.
You know,
and I can drop into that flow state super fast. Now I've since broken of that, and I need to get back into it. But someone interrupting the flow state
It's a muscle,
Oh
and
my
it
God.
comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, and that's the other thing too, which is that what we're talking about is the fact that you really do have to go out and get the inspiration.
Yes.
You can't just sit there and wait for the inspiration to strike you. It's not going to happen. You have to go out there and hit it.
Well, they strike you, but you have to catch it.
Right.
Yes,
You have
you
to
know?
catch it, and that requires knowing, having your setup right, then your area right, so you know what works for you, and then you stick to that. But I've found sometimes that different projects require different things, so different
that's true.
places.
Yeah.
And I know of at least one author that's like, this book insists on being written with longhand. I couldn't do that because I can't
Right.
read my own handwriting that well. But different
Yeah.
projects will require different spaces and setups sometimes too, and you
That's
have to
so
figure
true.
that out
Yeah.
on the fly.
So for actually stuff like that, I recommend. There's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Oh,
Mhm.
excellent book.
She
Yeah,
is
I think I have that copy of that.
she is fantastic about how to find your flow state, how to
Mhm.
how to figure out where your creativity comes from, what triggers it.
Right.
And she does her author pages, which I don't do them anymore, but they were a good way to you wake up and write 2 pages longhand in a diary that you will never look at again.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And it gets your brain moving in that creative direction,
Mhm.
and then it's easier during the day to which actually might need to get back to that.
Yeah.
It's easier during the day to find your inspiration because you started the day brain dumping, like anything. It's whatever comes to your head that you're worried about. Just 2 pages. You'll never ever look at it. Don't make it dialogue. Don't make it words.
Just dump it out.
Just get it out of your
Yeah,
brain, and
yeah.
It's like dumping the morning chamber pot.
yeah, pretty
It's just
much.
like get it out. You know, I mean, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does, and that kind of brings into my other point, which is that we're all talking about the fact that we've had changes in our life. We've had massive stresses. This is something that I had to come to grips with, which is that things that I didn't think should stress me as much as they did, because they were good things, like moving to Texas, or for that matter, moving from New Hampshire to Ohio. Those were very big, liberating steps for me, but they were tectonic shifts in the makeup of my world, and they threw my creativity for a loop every single time, and it takes you a while to recover, and you have to give yourself grace, but at the same time
You cannot live in that.
you can't let it turn you off completely. You have to look for that switch. You have to groping in the dark for the switch, and to get the light back on.
Good stress is still stress, but and any stress triggers your fight, flight, or freeze hormones.
Yeah.
And you have to cycle through that, figure out what's doing it, and particularly as women, we know you don't get the chance to not work during stress.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like even if you're freezing in a certain moment, you still, like, the kids need to be fed, the dogs need to be walked. Like, there is you do not get to stop.
The electric bill doesn't care.
Right.
It really doesn't. I mean,
So-
there's it's produce or die, and a lot of people are in circumstances where they have the luxury of not.
Yes.
And that's what I was just going to say. There's this whole thing going on right now with the anti-work movement, and people saying, "Oh, I'm not going to. Why do you need a job?" And I'm like, "You need a job because you want to eat."
It's like, I'm not feeding you.
I see comics of, like, portraying the depressive as curling up on the couch with a blanket over them and binge watching TV.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And right, because I've never had the luxury of being able to do that, and I've been in some really gosh darn bad mental places. And that's probably part of why I'm still alive, is the fact that you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you have to find
through molasses, sucking at your toes.
Yes.
It's just like...
And you might work slower, you might work on something else. This might be the time when you write that murder mystery that you really have never wanted to write before.
Or you switch from writing to art, which was what happened with me for a long time.
Or you do alterations because you can't bear the idea of an entire outfit. So, but it still brings in money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
you get annoyed because you're fixing other people's mistakes, and you don't want to do that anymore. So you go back to original work. So
I go through my closet and make new outfits, which is
really?
completely.
Oh, that's fun.
That's a good idea.
It's one of the things I like to do.
That's an important thing. I just had an idea. It's like, when you're stuck creatively on the thing it is that you do, and going somewhere else and learning something else, exercising a different creative part of your brain,
Yes.
and learning about something else entirely, completely opposite, which is, and it's fun watching all you guys do that, because we all do that. And I don't know if that's instinctual or just something that we learned. It's something I had to actually learn because I got too focused on a particular area. And I found I stumbled into this wonderful creatives coffee of a bunch of us used to get together every Tuesday, and then we had to move it for reasons. But for performer and a illustrator and an artist and a costume designer, we're all sitting around talking about being 12-year-olds in essence. Just being 12-year-olds. That's just who we were, and we ended up. It filled us all up because we could learn from each other something different. So
yeah.
yeah.
And one of the things I like my next thing I'm going to learn project, because the outfits thing is I learned how to dress people because for professional and very differently than you do, but like different with
you were doing fashion. You were out doing fashion stuff.
Yes.
How to create a look. How to how to create a wardrobe. How to do something like that.
And how to make someone
that's a topic because
feel like they're walking with their shoulders back and willing to
stand up straight
and
feel good about yourself.
But my next project is I'm like I want to learn cocktails.
Oh, I love that one.
Right.
You can do that anytime.
I know. I'm sitting here going, okay, wait, what do I need to do this? Because I've got someone who's willing to teach me. I've got books that I need to order eventually.
There is a really fun YouTube channel, if you haven't already found it, called How to Drink.
I've seen it. I haven't watched it yet. It's on the.
He is a riot,
yes.
and his camera woman is also hilarious. As time has passed and I've gone back and binge watched, I've realized that she has come to be more of a presence and like sass talk him from behind the camera.
I love that.
But he does. It's very instructional and tutorial because sometimes he'll go off on a wild hair and do like drinks from the Blade Runner, which is fun. But sometimes he's also just doing this is how to build an old fashioned and why all the different ingredients work in it.
So that's the next project, and I'm like, okay, so because it's one of these things, I'm like I need to do something like this so that I can get my brain back into thinking like this, so I can write, finish the book, and write the next book.
Yes,
and so but I know like that's kind of where my brain wants to focus and chew on, and by doing that, it's going to bring everything else back because we crave being creative.
Yeah,
someone who is creative wants to be creative.
Well, and if one part's run a marathon recently,
you have to let
it rest.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to give it a chance to breathe and go, okay. And if you go somewhere else, it allows for that to happen. So,
and I think most people are familiar with the concept of with physical exercise, you can overdo it and injure yourself.
Yeah.
But the same is true with the mental exercise and the creative. And burnout's probably not the right term for it.
I think it's more like an exhaust die.
Yeah.
You've hit exhaust on the die. There's nothing left in there. You need to let it rest for a little bit.
To refuel and replenish itself. I do want, though, one of these live streams for the two of you to talk about dressing oneself.
Oh, I could.
For purely selfish reasons.
Hey,
we can...
Okay,
we can bring examples.
Okay, so we're going to have to do this in several parts.
Yes.
One is the rant about the fashion industry. That would take an hour all on its own to explain why it doesn't work for anybody.
But rants are so much fun. I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy that.
I've done several short rants, and so have you, which is really fun. I mean, I have a class where I rant just about the big 3 pattern companies. Oh my God. And I actually had a woman cry in one of them because I told her it was not her. It was the clothing that was wrong. It's not you. But yes, I think that's an excellent direction to go.
Yeah.
So because that's a form of creativity also. How you choose to dress yourself and how you express yourself to the world.
Yes.
So
and I know
currently I'm a bag lady. Because I'm tired.
Well, and for me, when I started going to conventions and was being an author, I knew that because I had already dealt with this as an entertainer, personal branding and appearance is really important.
Yes.
So I adopted an author persona that I'm actually really comfortable with, But as my body has changed shape, I have become less comfortable with it because my body's not where I want it to be.
Mhm.
So the creativity of being able to find a fabulous dress and wear it to cons has kind of gone downhill for the last year and a half or two
Mhm.
because I'm
Well, and plus there's so
Not
little
happy.
out there that's possible. Shopping is more of a nightmare than
Yeah,
anything else.
yeah.
Oh
So
my
yeah.
God.
well, I
That's-
mean, the only reason so we're doing the steampunk convention, and the only reason I feel confident about it is because Jonna has decided that she was going to take me in hand and adjust and alter things so that I'll look good.
I'm doing a 2-hour session at this convention we're going to this coming weekend. You guys will see this on Wednesday, and we will be on our way down to Lafayette for the Steampunk International Expo thing.
Mhm.
I have a 2-hour class where people get to sign up and come in and what they're wearing, and I will help them figure out why it doesn't work, how to fine tune the thing they're wearing, and help them understand how to make their clothing fit for the shape that they have.
Mhm.
A lot of people are not aware of their edges. They don't know. Plus, when you're we don't see ourselves in the mirror.
No.
We see an impression of ourselves in a mirror.
Right.
And all we see generally are like, wow, this looks terrible.
Mhm.
When like 3 little tucks and a pole, and suddenly it's like,
Yeah.
oh.
Well, and having objective people who love you,
Mhm.
to because we tried on costumes yesterday, and I'm like, I hate everything about me.
Yeah, she was not in a good
And
spot.
she walked in and she looked beautiful
She looked
and
fabulous.
put together and classy, and the colors were just fabulous with
Yeah.
But
with
it
her
hadn't been a
skin
good
and
day.
hair.
Yeah.
It
But
just hadn't
yeah,
been a good day.
right.
And,
And
and
we're
today,
like,
so I'm like, okay, you guys have to tell me what looks good. I refuse to look in the mirror at this point. And
yeah, and then she put on her corset, and I'm like, oh, honey, look at that.
Yeah.
And I drug her around her mirror, we're like, look at this waist. Damn girl. You
Mm.
know?
Well, and for years I lived in a house where we didn't have any mirrors. Okay, there was a
What?
mirror
What?
over the sink, little one, about chin level for me and
Mhm.
up.
Was there a reason for that?
We just never had any mirrors. I don't. I'm sure we had mirrors when I was growing up, but I don't remember any.
Ah, okay.
And then the farmhouse in New Hampshire, there are just no mirrors.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did you see any mirrors
that
in
there
my
was a
apartment?
reason.
There's no room for mirrors in your apartment.
I actually had to make space for one. I put it on the back of the door.
Okay.
Because no, we moved in and there was the bathroom mirror, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it's
One
clear
thing
up.
I
Yeah.
loved about the costume shop I had in Springfield
Mm.
before I moved into my other studio is I had an entire wall of mirrors.
Mm, yeah. that
And the
would
nice
work
part
really
about
well.
that is that when I was fitting somebody, I had to wear all black because I would distract myself from the fitting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I had to make myself neutral.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see them in all dimensions.
Mhm.
I could move them and walk them and see the clothing move on them.
So we're all neutral today.
There's actually a reason I wear black all the time, and it's not just because of theater. And I will explain that at some other point.
Okay.
But there's a reason that I dress the way I do.
Mhm.
And people are like,
It doesn't reflect on the fabric you're using.
no, not just that, but there's more to it than that. I'll just tell you now.
Sorry.
Because
We're
when
curious, so.
when you are a large woman,
Oh.
there because I'm not tiny. I weigh 254 pounds, and you know, to me, it's just a number on a scale. But the world has this very clear idea that women of substance, like me, generally are dressed in inappropriate patterns,
Mhm.
awful fabrics, things that are not cut right, and people clothing is communication,
Yes.
right? So when somebody is wearing all black all the time, which I did forever, I mean,
Mhm.
there was a long period of time where every single thing in my wardrobe was black.
Mm-hmm.
I removed all of the ways that somebody could choose to pigeonhole me
Mhm.
by giving them nothing to grab onto.
Yeah.
I took away all of the societal clues, and then because I am not a small woman, the idea is that larger women just lumber along. I always move at a clip,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
you know. So people are surprised to find out I am the size I am, and surprised to find out I weigh what I weigh. Except now because I'm so damn tired all the time. But I mean, because I talk fast, I move fast. I mean, I use
Mhm.
quick movements. I don't. When I'm walking, usually people are trying to stay up with me. I'm like, why are you moving so slow? But all of that was a specific way to remove tags from me.
Mm.
Mhm.
Because, and people were like, no, you don't weigh that much. I'm like, honey, let's jump on a scale. You know? So there's some serious ass on this woman. You know, so all of that was to modify how the world saw me.
And
Mhm.
and undoubtedly a lot of it too with you in particular is that there's muscle under.
Yeah, well, there's a lot less than there used to be, but yes, there
Yes.
was.
Mhm.
Because when
and-
you're slinging fabric all day long and
Oh,
doing the
gosh,
kind of stuff I was
right.
doing, right? You know,
Mhm.
Some of those bolts of fabric are heavy.
well, it's not just that too, because you know, if you need to shove a refrigerator over, this is the woman you want
Mhm.
Mhm.
because I can plant and push, you know.
Yeah.
And some skinny little bitch trying to get in my face, it's like. I once told this little 100-pound girl at the school, he said, "You're a bitch," and I said, "Do you think it's really wise to piss off a woman who outweighs you by 150 pounds?" And she was like, "I'm like, think about that, honey,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
seriously, no." It's like,
I mean, I'm in the same boat where it used.
Mhm.
I am now. I've lost a lot of my muscle, and I'm working on regaining it.
mhm.
But up until even just 2-3 years ago, I would regularly astonish people who really should have known better by how much I could pick up and heft around.
Yeah.
We were doing disaster relief after Hurricane Maria at my job, and a bunch of people showed up, and they had like 50-pound bags of dog food and pallets of water and stuff, and I was out there with the guys just throwing a 50-pound bag over my shoulder because I've done that all my freaking
Yeah.
life because farm girl.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh, and I'm like, going. I'm already gone, guys. Don't
Yeah,
slow me down.
Same thing. I mean, what keeps me from doing that now is that I don't have grip with the arthritis in my
Mhm.
hands, you know,
Yeah.
but I can still shove a major thing across the room with no
Mhm.
big deal.
The printer I was moving the other day, I put it down and all of a sudden looked at the sign, saw it said 2-hand lift, 2-person lift. I'm like, oh,
Oh, really?
imagine that.
Eh.
Yeah. So,
Oops.
so yeah, but in terms of inspiration, I guess
Yeah.
yeah, we've spent our lives doing it, haven't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, for me, even when I was doing the entertainment business, my ex was the lead, but I had to. I built magic illusions and magic props. I learned balloon twisting, which is really interesting engineering of air inside a flexible tube, because you have to have the right amount of tension against parts to make it hold together and do what you want it to do. And because we're 12.
I'm sitting here going, this is just fast. I never thought of it like that. But then
it's
tension
true.
and parts.
As soon as I started playing with balloon animals,
Inflation matters.
inflation matters. Oh my god. The best tips, bar none, working a beach bar during Bike Week in Laconia, New Hampshire. Swear to God, I have had people give me $100 just for blowing up a balloon.
Oh, honey, come here.
Mhm.
And if he's drunk and
I
obnoxious,
think we're missing a point here.
you each get an uninflated balloon. You hand the drunk and obnoxious guy the one uninflated 260, which is it blows up to be about 2 inches across, and you have yours and he has his, and you go whoop, and he's go over there huffing and puffing and getting red and can't get it up.
Because I can't get it up, honey. What
And then-
inspires you,
and then
asshole?
and then his girlfriend will tip you $20. Oh, so yeah, inspiration, right?
Children.
From the weirdest places.
But really, be children. Go
Yeah.
find the.
Well,
Have
that is the
fun.
thing too, is retaining childlike wonder,
Yes.
and childlike silliness. I mean,
the sense
seriously.
of wonder.
So we had this one of our coffees. We had this moment where I was telling Dawn, my illustrator friend, about this is like those moments that just go all wrong. I was telling him that I had seen this great little cartoon about giraffes that were climbing stairs, then going. It was an illustrated thing. Giraffes going up, and they were diving into a pool, and I thought that was hilarious. And animals doing trapeze work and everything, and then I think it was Mark said, or somebody said, "How do snails do trapeze work?" And then we just went complete. We're like, "Oh my god, snails! What's that? Do they have their shells? What? Do they grip?" Like, and then you have as they go, and then Nadia went bananas, and she put them in. So she ended up making a sculpture of a trapeze snail in a little red and white striped leotard, and it was like, so. I mean, it comes from the strangest places, and being willing to be completely silly. what it's the live stream is full of inspiration
Oh,
that the
yeah.
guys do
Oh,
because they're
yes.
willing to go around the bend. They're
Mhm.
willing to be silly. They're willing to be stupid. They're willing to be like say anything. The best thing that can happen to you as a creative is for your filter to completely fall out.
Yeah, you just let go and let it all come out,
Yes.
and that is it's such a liberation, because I know that
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about writing and about the things that hold us up with writing and being young
Mhm.
and not knowing that. And as I get older, I'm like, well, I can't do that. It's already been done. And
You sure about that?
well, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, but if I do it, it's going to be totally different. One of the fun things that we've done with the prompt challenge group is occasionally we'll do a single prompt and see what everybody does
See, now, isn't that
with
the
one
coolest thing?
prompt.
Mhm.
It is.
I love that. I love it when we get one thing and everybody runs. Okay, now wait a minute. We had this moment. We had this moment earlier before we started the live stream about Law Dog and being what? How did we end up there?
I don't know how
So
we
he was
ended up
feeling,
there.
he was going to pimp us because he's feeling very pimpy.
I was like,
Because and we're talking about books, just to be
Books.
very clear.
And the books and the
he's
go
he
fun.
probably was gonna pimp us
Good.
tomorrow on the live stream, and then we've all looked at each other at the same time, and I'm like,
he
a
needs a
giraffe.
hat.
He needs a giraffe print coat, and there was like fox in a giraffe print coat with a purple pimp hat. So
And because you're seeing inspiration and creativity in action, this is what MidJourney does with that prompt.
and you know what? I see that, and I desperately want to make that for Ian in real life
Oh yeah.
because I can find that fabric.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, it just needs to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I added
He'll be
purple.
horrified.
I added purple feather boa to the prompt.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
the prompt actually is fox dressed with a pimp hat and giraffe print coat and purple feather boa, and this is what I got out of that. And because I don't know, purple feather boa just seemed like it went with that outfit.
It does.
Not sure it would work with Ian's complexion, but
It would be perfect.
We make him turn purple regularly
I
anyway.
was gonna say, I mean, it's fairly normal, but the giraffe pimp coat and hat.
Oh yeah.
well,
And
I
that's
mean,
what happens with us all the time. We're constantly doing stuff like this because we just gotta go,
Mm-hmm.
and we all have permission.
yeah.
We gave each other permission. Well, the boys are kind of sorry about that part.
That's why the broadcast exists.
They didn't think to stop us.
No, I think they know better than to try and stop us.
Yeah, we just kind of careened down the hillside, and they're kind of we're like Calvin and Hobbes in the wagon going down the hill,
Yeah.
and the guys are at the top going, "Oh my god!"
Like,
They are Calvin's dad.
yes.
Yeah.
They're
I wonder how-
Statler and
and
Waldorf.
They
Wait.
are Statler and Waldorf.
See, I wonder how fast we're going. I don't know. We'd have to do this and do this. Oh, that requires math. Let's just do it anyway.
Yeah. Who cares about math? We'll just go.
We'll just
Yeah.
go. It's fun.
Yeah, but it's the giving each other permission part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
have
and-
fun.
Right, and bouncing and and striking sparks off one another. We
Yeah.
gotta do the flint and steel.
Well, it was like
Oh.
dinner on Saturday. So we had John Van Stry and we had Jim Curtis and Sanford were all on the porch,
Mm-hmm.
and you came around the corner and said tiramisu, and I was like, I'm out, and I left. But they were just John Van Stry was trying to work through a plot point. He was completely stuck.
Mm-hmm.
He had no creativity around a particular plot point he was trying to get
also
through.
not. He's been under the weather, so.
And he hasn't been feeling well. But he also was like, I don't normally do this kind of part here
Mm-hmm.
in this new book that he's working on. So Sanford and Jim sat out there with him for almost an hour,
Mhm.
Yeah.
picking his brain apart in his story and trying to figure it out because John was open and willing to be creative with other people.
Right.
He was willing to say, I am stuck here and I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And I know Dorothy and I have gone back and forth and used the same line in multiple different. That we
Mhm.
both came up. I came up with a line. She's like, "I'm going to steal that." I'm like, "Okay, go for it." Like I already used it, but and it's in
Yeah.
Yeah.
the context we use the line in. They're exactly the same,
Mhm.
but
Totally different.
but totally different.
stories.
Right.
completely different.
Mhm.
And because we do that, we share that back and forth. I'm like,
Cross-pollination.
I have steal an idea. Great, go for it.
Well,
Even
yeah.
if I'm not using it, if it's a great line, go for it. Don't steal the whole thing.
Yeah, I was gonna
But,
say,
like,
because stealing an idea, you can't really steal an idea.
right.
No.
Ideas grow from use.
Right, and one
Yeah.
idea I mean, if we took the giraffe pimp fox thing and all three of us interpreted that differently, we would wind up with some similarities because fox and giraffe and pimp hat. But even how we interpret pimp hat might be different. I don't know. But if we all
I'm
three of
thinking like
us,
Huggy Bear from. That's
Oh
just
my
me.
Lord. What really kills me is I have a purple cheetah print jacket back at the warehouse in Eugene that would fit Ian.
Oh.
And I'm just so sad that it's not here.
We're gonna have the tiara of book release and the pimp hat of book promo. And
uh-oh. As Jonna's brain goes.
We all have a lot of hats, and that's been my thing for like the last 2 days. Is that needs a hat,
Right? We need hats. Because our hats keep changing and we keep gathering them up.
Yes, I wear like 8 or 9 of them.
You do. We're trying to take a few away from you.
yes, yes, we are.
I know.
I know. It's the important part is
You're not a Jaeger. We're not stealing your hat. You get to wear the biggest, most fantabulous hat. How's that?
I have several.
Yes, you do.
I mean, it's like hat.
Yeah.
It's like hello.
And hat, because you can't see the pretty side of it. So hat.
Yes. I have a few hats.
Yes.
Yeah, I had
Got 'em.
longer feathers
Here we
until Anne chewed on them.
Oh yeah,
They were
I
like
see.
big things.
Well, yeah, pheasant feathers. So
Yeah,
pheasant
which
tail
is like
feathers.
non-existent. So
And this is a little barred rock right there.
yes, it is.
I know exactly what that feather is. I had a lot of barred rock chickens over the years.
Yeah, that was a lady who made 20 hats a year and you had to run to her booth at Country Fair to get a hat out of her because she only did 20.
So to show you, I mean, you already know this. I've been interested in a lot of strange things over the years. At one point, I owned an absolutely lovely book on millinery.
Oh yeah,
and how to make hats. And
is it called From the Neck Up? Because I have it.
No, it's I don't remember the name anymore. And I don't have it anymore because I finally gave up on the idea of actually making my own hats. But I love hats, and I particularly love some styles that just aren't made anymore. And I had at one point, until my children found it, played with it, I had this gorgeous close-fitting cloche cap, and it had a little net, and it was all these beautiful green and orange feathers. It was just this. I mean, it was just a little cap, very very decorative.
Really
and I picked it up. I mean, it was probably 1930s, 40s, back when ladies wore hats all the time.
I have several. I have like 3 bins of period hats still back in Oregon, which we probably should just get and put on the wall when we need to switch business of what we're doing. Because I'm beginning to think
So what are the Viking helmets for then?
That's from when I sewed the guys wear the Viking helmets. That was my live action version of Spear and Magic helmet. We did the live Elmer Fudd Bugs Bunny. I put a guy in a gray suit and a little pink tutu and the rabbit ears and the whole thing. And we did a live action of that. Quite possibly the most fun show I've ever done in my life. I mean, complete with Spear and Magic helmet and the singing of the whole thing and a live band. And
if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will.
I gotta tell you, there was nothing better. That was just like quintessential brilliance. Yes. Being able to bring Warner Brothers and opera to life like that. It was just amazing. Yes. So I keep those to remind myself that the silliest things can become the most glorious fun.
Yes.
So, yeah. And can become beautiful things as well. Because it was beautiful. I mean, we were all teary-eyed because it was so much fun.
And people have, I love when you have permission to play.
Yes.
And
permission to play is the most important part of creativity. Yeah. Permission. Just like throw it out there. And don't be afraid that somebody's going to criticize it. And if they are criticizing them, dump them out of your life.
Yep.
Yes.
Just dump them out of your life because people are afraid of that kind of like, oh my God, that's so childish. I'm like, it is, isn't it?
Isn't that fun?
Which is part of the reason we have so much fun in the bar.
Right.
Because we're not just partying in the bar at conventions. We're having outrageous creative moments.
Oh, yeah.
Alcohol fueled, but yes.
We've had some amazing moments in the bar.
Oh, God, the stuff that comes out of there is just insane. And it just spreads.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, contagious fun.
Yeah.
Well, Healthy, contagious, fun.
Healthy. Let's not do. Okay, check some of the contagious at the door.
If it requires penicillin or
So there was a
don't bring that.
conversation going on for, I don't know, the last day or so in my Discord
Yeah.
about werewolves. There's a meme or a little story floating around about people that got into a fight over werewolves and
Werewolves and
fleas.
fleas.
And so the conversation in the Discord
Go
has
catch
been
up.
I saw the meme. I've seen the meme.
right.
Okay.
And but the conversation in the Discord was something to the effect of well, if the flea bites the werewolf and gets infected, can it be a were-flea? And what bites the flea? And I pointed out that mites are small enough to bite fleas, and that devolved us down into bacteria. Oh my gosh, werewolves could be transmissible disease vectors. And they're the writers involved, and some of them are writer adjacent or galloping off down the road with this idea.
Were mosquitoes?
No, let's not.
Because it's if the flea bites the werewolf, does it turn into a were-flea? And because if it's a werewolf, it usually bites you, right? But
Right.
the flea takes in the werewolf's blood, which is typically where the werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I get where
So
this.
every 30 days you got to spray the yard. Every full moon you spray the yard. Because could you imagine legions of little fleas out in the yard turning into rabid little were-fleas as the moon comes up? Your yard becomes like a piranha infested. It's like ah! It's like, ah! Your cat is like, no fucking way am I doing that. Nope. They're just noping. My dog won't go out. His legs are like,
Well, the other thing that was pointed out is
the image that goes with that is terrifying.
Right.
Yes. The other thing that was pointed out in the
And one
good
them
side
is-
of this.
It's like I have this image of one making it in the house, and the fly swatter going. Pap, 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 pap.
Oh. The upside
Terrifying.
is that silver is an antibacterial, which is why silver would work against weres.
Because if it's a disease, if it's a bacterial disease vector,
then silver would work.
She's like throwing her earrings. I'm gonna stab you with my pin back.
Those little colloidal silver infused rags, which don't work for actual cleaning,
No,
by the way.
but-
Please don't.
Oh my
But
god!
in a were-flea, you can throw the rag on it.
Don't lift that cup, silver cup.
You've seen the picture of the cup with the little hole chewed out of it. And the sign that says, "Don't lift the cup, spider inside."
Yeah, but it was just like, find Grandma's silver. It's like, what are you doing? Throw me another cup. Get the punch set.
The real reason we don't have actual silver in our silverware anymore.
It's like, stab. Oh my god. Yeah. See that image? See? Creative moment. Ah! Terror.
And on that note,
On
we
that
should
note.
probably wrap it up for the
Yes,
evening.
We should stop at were-fleas because God knows.
we're not gonna get any better.
Thank you for joining
But
us.
we do need to mention the Give Send Go.
Then we'll let the
Whether-
boys do that on Tuesday.
Okay, we'll let them talk about it. We
Yes.
won't talk about it. You
No.
can go figure it out on your own. You're on your own though.
Yes.
However, anything else that we need to mention?
Were-fleas are a really bad idea.
Yes, like zombie maggots.
Yes. we do have a new Steam postcard challenge coming up for the
SteamCon.
Yes.
Yes.
SteamCon. Yes.
So the challenge will open
the day after this goes live.
right.
Yeah, Thursday
so
night.
March 9th. Please don't submit anything until March 10th, and submissions will close promptly at
Monday.
On Monday?
We're closing them on Monday.
Okay, well, that gives us, if we hand out cards on
At the con.
Sunday,
Because
it gives them a fair
Yeah,
chance.
because they can
Yeah.
also, if they get a card, and the convention's a lot of fun,
Mhm.
it's totally fair to let them go home Monday morning with their
Right,
ideas right,
right.
and submit
And
it
is
it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: is if you're at the con with us, come see Courtney, and she will give you an actual physical image for you to use for your image prompt. If you are
Yes.
not at the con, or if you would prefer a digital image, see me, reach out to me through social media or whatever, and I will send you an image to prompt your 50-word story. Is it always just precisely 50 words?
50.
Do we have a little wiggle room?
No.
They can go. I had some that were 48.
Okay.
But
Under,
if we like,
not over.
if we go 52, you're gonna get edited if I like it.
You're going to have to pull 2 out.
Yeah.
So preferential is to edit exactly to 50.
If you
Okay.
get exactly
goal
to 50,
is
exactly to 50.
Exactly. Use
Yep.
every bit of space you have. And
Well
use every
done.
word you have.
Yes, well done 50-word stories are like poetry.
Oh yes,
They are. And
So,
they're a lot more difficult than you think.
yes, it is a
But they're a
challenge.
fun exercise.
They
as
are.
you know from our postcards from Mars. So.
And with Postcards from Mars, if you buy the physical copy of Postcards from Mars, in the back there are blanks and images to give you some practice so you can see how well you do on your own. But yeah, no, absolutely. Reach out for a postcard. That'll be March 9th through the 11th. Yeah, I can't math. Don't ask me to math.
We'll stop handing them out on the 12th.
Yes.
That would be Sunday. So.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's lovely to talk to you ladies again.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
It's time to go home and have dinner.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And hopefully we were inspiring with your creativity, right?